got to the point where I realized how much I had been abandoning myself in business and in life for the sake of retrofitting a system that was never going to work for me.
I'm so stoked to have today two amazing, strong women, Laura Miranda.
It starts with that fundamental shift into realizing you are a brand.
And Ariana Rae Diverio.
For our clients and for women, stop asking for directions to places they've never been.
Being a working mom has, its challenges. Laura, what do you have to hide?
Two potty training ballerinas next door.
All of our baby stuff that we need to go through.
You can't have it all. I don't believe that I heard that phrase ever said to a man before. I only hear it as a woman.
Who the heck defined it all? Well, it clearly wasn't women, right?
And you get to define it for yourself. Maybe it all is not having a family and it's being able to travel to a different country every other month and have a successful career. Maybe it's not having a career at all. You get to define what it all is, and everybody else can go,
Hi everyone, welcome to Unmatched. I'm so stoked to have today two amazing, strong women, Laura Miranda and Ariana Rae Diverio. Welcome to Unmatched.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for having us. Tandem, love it.
It's a pleasure, guys. Laura and Ariana are the founders of Be Partners, a consultancy firm that focuses on revenue generation, but with an angle on brand building, which is quite unique and unmatched. And I really want to talk about that with you guys. But first and foremost, let us hear from you guys who you are and what you do.
You want to kick it off,
great.
Ariana?
You go.
Okay. So my name's Laura. I am the proud mother of 4 little ones under 4, which, if you do the math, is 2 sets of twins, both born during the pandemic, which I mentioned because it definitely informs my story. But my background is in really sponsorship and partnership marketing. I came up in the sports industry, building and selling and activating partnerships for tons and tons of world famous and emerging sports properties. The last 5 or 6 years really carved out a niche in creating unmatched revenue streams for properties by just creatively approaching their assets and brand equity and figuring out how to monetize that in new and sustainable ways. So Ariana and I have been friends for 10 plus years. Actually, our husbands are best friends. So we grew up the last 10 years really watching each other grow up in our respective industries and seeing each other develop, which has been such an honor and a fun journey. And we both really hit this existential, pivotal shift in our lives and careers about the same time, just under a year ago, and decided, what Ariana was doing, and she'll get into it in a second, is similar in the intent, but different in the execution from what I do. But we were starting to cross over a lot more, particularly in the sports and entertainment space. So it just made sense all around for us to do this on our own. And that really was spurred on a lot by our personal lives and the demands on us as women and mothers. And so we're here today hoping to really show the world what happens when women lead.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, we'll definitely get into that. Ariana, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me and having Laura. We're really excited to be on with you and on this podcast. I will try to as expertly weave in the word unmatched as Laura did. That was well
done. You don't have to, but why not?
It's always hard to go before or after Laura. It doesn't matter which one you pick.
No, ditto.
But I will.
Yeah,
I will give it my best shot. So, as she mentioned, our husbands are best friends. They've been best friends since they were about 5 years old, and that's how we met. And have always had great respect and admiration for each other. And in our foundational element, I think that we both carry, which is not accepting the status quo, and really wanting to push the boundaries because we know they can be pushed in a way that's intentional and in a way that delivers results. Also want to caveat, I will get out of breath throughout this podcast because I am almost due with my first baby.
Oh my gosh,
I'm about 5 weeks left. So the breathing is getting a little hard. So apologies there. But we've always pushed against accepting how business is run for the patriarchy that doesn't necessarily serve women. And we've always pushed the boundaries of what organizations and companies say can be done. We like to go above and beyond and create really innovative next level thinking that drives results for our clients that they haven't seen before. And that's what we're always trying to do, is add value. How can we add value? How can we look at things differently? As you know, women's perspective is inherently different. Not that one's better than the other, but it's complementary. So we've always admired each other for that. I've spent over a decade in the out-of-home media industry, pioneering some kind of revolutionary revenue producing programs where we marry out-of-home partnerships, leveraging brand equity for venues, arenas, stadiums, entertainment properties, rights holders, and taking that kind of power, that brand equity that they have and that brand affinity, and using it to create programs that allow for things that previously haven't been done in the industry. So taking that power and being able to build out assets, media assets that you can't build otherwise because you don't have the political or economic leverage, and then using that same brand affinity to give other brands an ability to maximize their advertising potential and maximize their impact with consumer bases that they want to reach. So been doing that, like Laura said, complementary to what she does in intention, just a little bit of a different outcome, but always with the mindset that we're building revenue, and always with the mindset that we're looking at an outcome for our clients that is going to be guaranteed. I think that's something in the industry that we saw as different, because we're women. We had to actually perform in a way that was measurable. I think you get extra chances when you're a man to try something and it doesn't work, and we'll get them next time around. Women really don't get that opportunity. If you're going to do something innovative or creative, you have to hit it out of the park. So we've always focused on deliverables that will come to fruition, and we've been successful in that.
Incredible, introduction. And it seems like both of you have done quite a lot in your careers. And I'm sure that journey has led you to where you are today. Having said that, the fact that we're like three women with kids and working professionals, sort of like having this conversation is quite unique as well. So it's different experiences, different points of view. My point of view is that at least I've been very lucky, and I can say that, being a mother hasn't necessarily affected, my performance or the way that I'm seen at work. But I have to admit that it hasn't been very easy at all to juggle all those different, kind of crystal balls that you have up in the air. And I think that as women, we don't really maybe fully grasp, at the beginning of our careers where this is going and how motherhood is going to change the whole viewpoint on how you do things. So I'm really excited about these conversations. But before, going into that, Ariana had a little bit of a moment before joining the podcast. Maybe you can tell us a little bit the story of what happened, because it's quite telling, right? It's quite informative of this whole conversation.
As mentioned, I am going to be having a baby soon. So while trying to start a new agency and build out a new company and manage a book of business that has come on far earlier and more successfully than we anticipated, I have to change the office to the nursery, our storage room to an office. So I had no idea where to set up for this. I had to run around and find some sort of area to get settled, because I actually have all of our baby stuff that we need to go through on a table in our living room. And it's just a mess. So
this is as real
wild
as it gets. Laura, what do you have to hide? What are you hiding?
2 potty training ballerinas next door.
I'm hiding this thing behind the plan there. I had like a couple of stickers on the wall that my younger son just realized they were there now, so I had to kind of cover it with the plan. So let's just say that, being a working mom has its challenges, and I have to sort of preface this by saying that probably men deal with the same amount of stress, but in different ways. How has it been different for you, and what part of the journey that you've been on has brought you to this point where you think like building something on your own with a set of values that align much more with your lifestyle now is the way to go for you?
I can pinpoint it to one particular moment, if that is interesting at all. It's a little bit over a year ago from now. I was sitting in a 70-person interagency global meeting on the 70th floor of a Manhattan, PR agency building. And it was February or March and snowing. And I had 4 young babies at home in New Jersey. And the weather was making it difficult to get back and forth from, and they were sick. And I was at that meeting because I felt like I needed to show face, not because it was the smartest thing for the business. I wasn't even prepped for that meeting. It made no sense. And I had obviously been facing a lot of pressure leading up to that moment. But that moment for me was this is the wrong place for me to be, right? I can do this work, but I don't need to be here. For me, it was time to cut the performative BS, right? And for years, I was just tired of feeling like I had to retrofit a forced agenda into a system that didn't want to change and didn't necessarily need to change. And so I felt like a fresh start and just showing people, instead of talking about it, just showing people what could be possible when change was embraced as opposed to begrudgingly undertook, would be great. I didn't have the master plan at that point. That was the clarity I needed to take a pause. And actually by taking a pause, I turned into a part-time contractor, and just laser focused my efforts with that company on one specific project, which was super, super successful. But the space gave me what I needed to then figure out what the path forward was like. And then very soon after that, Be Partners came into fruition.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Actually, I had a similar moment, although not as, I count that moment for Laura as such an impactful moment and something that all women should learn from. In listening to that voice that you kept pushing down and you've kept pushing down, and understanding that, and Laura has a great way of saying this, that career and work is a rubber ball, but family, children, you is a glass ball. So which one do you want to let bounce on the floor for a second before you decide how you want to rebalance them? So I think that was just such an incredible moment for Laura and for all women, to see what you can do in those moments if you listen to yourself. For me, it was I co-founded an agency previously, and was with a partner who was very adamant that I should definitely wait to have children for as long as possible. And
Wow.
and so you get that pressure, right? And I just watched the movie Baby Boom. If you haven't watched that, I highly recommend it, with Diane Keaton. And so it was very much in that vein that she goes through, where it's like, well, hey, listen, you're so good at what you do and we really value you here, but you can't have it all. So you can't do the family thing and do this as well as you want to do it. So just, keep that in mind, because you're a woman. Me as a man, I can have it all because I have a wife at home. So you have this kind of idea pathology that's going on. And I wanted to have a family, and I knew that it wasn't going to be something that I could successfully do where I was. And we were having differences of business mindset. And I kind of got to the point where I realized how much I had been abandoning myself in business and in life for the sake of retrofitting, as Laura mentioned, as a system that was never going to work for me, or for what I really could accomplish if I was able to build the system myself. So I think you start to see, and I had this moment of, well, this was the direction that I wanted to go, and this was where we were headed, and it got kind of ripped out from under me. And I was like, well, that's the sign. You can either continue to abandon yourself in a multitude of ways, or you can pivot and bet on yourself, and go from there. And I've been really lucky to have the best clients and the best partner in Laura, to support that transition. And I think it's not about saying, again, one way is better than the other. Whatever may work for someone in their business may not work for another. I think it's really about not abandoning yourself. And when it's not working for you, making that decision to choose yourself time and time again, to the detriment of everybody else, right? It's not it's not about them. It's about you. You have to, Glennon Doyle says this, disappoint others every time as opposed to disappointing yourself.
Yeah, no, totally. But I have to say, I want to be a bit provocative now because, I love it and it's going to be fun. But, you said something that I resonate with and I've heard so much over the years, this phrase, you can't have it all. And I don't believe that I heard that phrase ever said to a man before. I only hear it as a woman or said to women in the context of career and motherhood, right? So career and family. And having gone through, it myself and having two small kids myself, I do agree that you can't have it all in the way that you maybe always imagined, right? The point being, maybe in the system that you're in the certain guidelines that company that you're working for has, with a set of unspoken rules, the management, the people that you work with, you have teams, maybe managers, whatever. Maybe in that context, you cannot have it all. But I wonder if it's true that you can't have it all at all. Maybe it's a matter of timing. Like, how do you see that?
This question fires me up so much. And I love that you called it out because it harkens back to our business too, which is like, who the heck defined it all? Well, it clearly wasn't women, right? Like it was clearly one person who can't relate to everyone in the world. So it's just the fact that like we feel, or the narrative is that we are somehow not fulfilled, or it just is BS. And I don't know how you feel about cursing on your show, so I'm trying to keep it. I'm trying to keep
Go
it.
for it. 2024 is a fresh start, so we can do it all.
All right. So having it all is bullshit.
Yes.
Because like who defined it? I think it's up to everyone to define it for themselves. The problem is that the original, I think, definition was just reinforced by all the people at the top. So that's why representation and the willingness and support to be brave and different and be your authentic self is so critical. Because to your point, Oana, it's not easy to have it all, but it's doable, and easy's underrated. So, or overrated, whatever. It's not worth it. I don't know, Ariana, what you think about that.
Completely agree. I think it's all who said it all was one thing. Maybe no, we can't have it all. We can't be in an office as a CEO 70 hours a week, traveling across the globe, and be at our baby's baseball game. But you don't need to be in office 70 hours a week, traveling internationally to successfully run a business. I think that that's the differentiator. Who said that you have to do these things this way in order to be successful, to have it all? I think that that's what we really push up against is you've seen the world change so much. And that was one of the blessings that came out of COVID amongst, the trauma and the terror, is that we got to have so many people jump on board with, whoa. Okay, this absolutely does not need to be the format and how we live our lives and how we dedicate ourselves to our work in a way that's like martyrdom. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. There have been studies after study after study saying that 80% or 20% of your effort, right? 20% yields 80% of your results. If that's the case, why then are we looking at how much we can work in terms of hours to prove our worthiness or to prove our accomplishments or to say that that's what's needed to be a director or a VP or a CEO? It's just nonsensical. So I completely agree with Laura. What are the definitions of it all? I think you get to define it for yourself. Maybe it all is not having a family and it's being able to travel to a different country every other month and have a successful career. Maybe it's not having a career at all. You get to define what it all is, and everybody else can go,
I totally agree. And I also think it's a matter of, it's a cultural thing as well. There's so many cultural differences across the world and all the different countries we're based in two different countries, and there's already a huge difference in how work is seen in the US and how work is seen in Europe. And, I think, for example, in Germany, we have an amazing benefit of having, more support maybe than in other countries when it comes to motherhood and being a working mother and getting that support throughout a longer period of time. Some other countries in Europe have it even better or less. It really depends, right? But in the end, it's a very personal definition of what I think also not just motherhood in the context of career, but really what career is all about. I think, and this is true, I think, for men and women alike. There's a whole redefinition of how we want to work in the future, and it's a macro trend across the board. I don't think it's only Gen Z. It's really everyone who's changing their minds about how work can be done in the future. But if you combine that in the context of you need to be a mother and work, maybe we all just need to redefine what it all really means, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's the same thing we're doing with our business model, right? Like when we're talking to presidents and owners and chief revenue officers at these sport and entertainment properties primarily, they're asking us, what more is there? They're like, we in theory have it all, but it all is not enough. So what more is there? And that's what we do, is we come in and we unlock more for them, sustainably more, not just a one-off, one-hit wonder. So it's definitely a value proposition that we try to live and breathe every day.
So tell me a little bit about this magic. What is this magic that unlocks more? What exactly do you do?
Ariana, I'd love for you to take this one.
Well, I'll do it holistically and kind of generally to start. But I think it really begins with perspective. And that's our secret sauce and our magic to unlocking more, is that we have a different perspective. We have a different take. We look at things differently, and we see white spaces where others don't, and we're willing to pursue them where others aren't willing to go. I think that's the difference when you are coming in at it, not, and I think this is one of the wonderful things that women bring to the table. When you come at it from a collaborative, creative, curious way, instead of an ego-driven, here's how it's been done, here's how we will do it, here's how we will do it better. That's just not how a woman's perspective works. It's very intuitive. We come in and we look at different things and we ask questions. We have no ego tied to asking questions. And Forbes just wrote an article about this, of why women are so valuable in the boardroom and how better decisions are made when you have more women board members, because that's how they engage in these conversations. And that's how they start to pick apart problems so that you can find the best solution. So I think that's really where our secret sauce is, and where we come in, and it's looking at something and really pinpointing, hey, why don't we do this? Well, it's never been done that way. Okay, yeah, and why don't we do it now? Let's try it now. We know we can make this work, and here's how we can make it work. So for me, unlocking more was really looking into how can you bridge the gap between traditional out-of-home media and existing partnership and sponsorship strategy at venues and arenas, and how do you actually take the political and economic leverage of a team, of a venue, and use that to unlock the ability to create unmatched assets and unmatched revenue potential. I got it in twice. Write that down.
Twice. Amazing. Keep going.
And so that was really the more, right? The more that we do is that we find where there's non-traditional assets that can be monetized, that align with brand value, that always expand brand impact. So there's really not a lot of people, not a lot of consultants out there looking at how you leverage and continue to grow brand marketing, brand affinity, brand equity, while tying it back to monetization. So all in the service of ensuring that there are more ways that you can start to provide value to your B2B partners, so that drives more revenue, so that there's more ways for you to connect with your consumer. There's more ways for you to enhance a fan experience. All the things that are really meaningful in an industry that's moving at record speed. I mean, partnerships and sponsorships are set to double, Laura, by like 2030 or something of that nature, the revenue dollars in sports and entertainment. So how can you take all of that and help these brands and these venues grow and future-proof in a way that's authentic? Because, you mentioned Gen Z, Gen Alpha. What they want is different than what we've had. And I think that you have to think in that way while also serving your legacy audience. So how do you take all of those pieces together to create different assets that set you apart, that are also authentic, that build long-term sustainable revenue streams and also leverage the brand equity affinity you have and continue to build on it. And that's really our more.
Just to tie the bow on that, because Ariana is underplaying the revolutionary pioneering aspect of her specialty solution, right? I mean, out of home assets are something that every major venue is sitting on, and they will 99% of them admit that they just throw in those assets as like value adds when in fact they could be generating upwards of 10, 20 million a year in passive recurring revenue. So that is just like a major black and white obvious solution. Our I come from more of the IP monetization world from sponsorship, right? So my process is a little bit more creative, but ultimately we are commercial strategy consultants, right? And commercial strategy means identifying and enabling value creation opportunities. So we look across these rights holders' properties holistically to help them see the blind spots and the gaps and the opportunities for more value creation primarily for their B2B partners. So brands like Puma, ideally, right? We are basically your representative to our clients saying, this is what these brands want, and this is what you need to build or optimize in order to best serve them and your consumer constituents. So we have a proprietary commercial matrix scorecard that we use with every property that wants that full service evaluation, just to help them benchmark their current performance and the optimization potential. Obviously, out of home is a really black and white significant solve, but we've created in my past life and in our partners' past lives, we've created similar scale revenue programs with more intangible assets. So like IP development to content series or live experiences, thought leadership conferences all over the world with the world's most influential people. We've even created, never been done before, mobile gaming in-game activations that not only are allowing these properties to activate in never done before ways, but also now there is opportunity to create sponsorship inventory and more premium advertising inventory to upsell and better serve corporate partners, but also obviously, of course, the consumers too.
So with all that being said, with all the stuff that you guys are doing, I know that you are very much focused on the brand building side of things. And I know that we all three love this idea that you cannot build a business without the brand, and especially in this industry that we are in, it's all the more important. How do you guys see that, and where is the biggest missed opportunity that you have seen with companies that you've maybe worked with that, in this regard, something that people maybe often don't think about when it comes to brand building?
In the sports industry in particular, I think it's a chronic issue that people aren't even aware of, because for so long, sports properties in particular were the prize, so they didn't feel like they needed to cultivate their brand. In fact, I heard at a conference in DC just a few weeks ago from an executive at NBA or NFL, one of those top leagues. They outright said, we rely on our media partners to drive the promotion and fandom. Well, guess what? The media and broadcast landscape is completely imploded.
Changing,
And
yeah.
so how can you rely on that? You can't. Oh, and by the way, the inventory on the market is insane. So how are you differentiating your assets from your competitors? And by the way, they're at record high price tags. So if I'm a brand, I want to do my due diligence to make sure that I'm going to get the ROI. So to me, it starts with, since properties are our main client, it starts with that fundamental shift into realizing you are a brand, and the things that you're able to monetize are simply manifestations of your brand. And that is unlimited in its potential, right? It doesn't compromise the integrity of your core product, which, right, is your team and the performance on the field and your fans and your community. It just unlocks the door to unlimited reinterpretations. And we're seeing that right now, actually, with the NFL, which I think is so interesting. Of course, it took Taylor Swift to open everyone's eyes.
Of course.
But they're seeing this huge surge in new fandom they didn't change the product. They just changed the delivery and value proposition for a massive audience with massive consumer purchasing power. And so thinking of themselves as brands first is critical. We always start there, and then we apply it to the tactical commercial applications.
Tagging on to what Laura said, that she mentioned with the demographic shifting and hitting that new marketplace, a recent study just came out, I believe, that was by 2030, women could control as much as 30 trillion in assets held by baby boomers, which would completely reshape the effect of consumerism in the nation. And that flow of trillions of dollars into women's hands is going to change how economics are developed and looked at, and how brands are engaging with their communities and with consumers. And so that shift and that thought process is so mission critical. And if you're not looking at your brand as your first foray into creating your value, then you're going to miss out on all of that opportunity. I think that that's really the key, is the way that Laura said it. Your brand is where everything starts, and that's what you leverage. So when you want to take a shortcut and you don't want to reinvest in your brand, or you don't want to update your brand, or you don't want to make sure that your brand is speaking to the demographics that you want it to speak to, you're going to fall short on the monetization and just the impact in general. I mean, there's this very common statement that we've heard a few too many times that it's unsettling: build it and they will come. And that's not how that works. So it's not, again, I don't know how to stress that line was from a movie about dead people playing baseball. So let's not build business models around this line, please. Like that's not how it is. You need to build and reinvest and communicate and teach people how to use your brand to leverage theirs, how to create, brand equity that builds on itself and allows itself to be monetized in different ways and in different revenue streams. And even looking at things creatively, for a lot of the work we do in out of home, looking at your brand from a different perspective in terms of its political power, in terms of its economic power. How do you take that and use that in a way that allows you to do things that you've never thought about doing before? While out of home may seem like such a black and white solve, it's very hard for sports and entertainment to understand how to manifest it as an extension of their brand. And how do they actually take that brand power that they have to develop these programs that you can't develop any other way? So it's getting people to focus back in on what they have and prioritizing investment in that so that you can see the return on the back end. And fans and consumers and brands like Puma are picking up on this. It's not something that people can hide behind anymore. I think everybody thought that they could continue to hide and to say, we're the NFL, we're the NBA, we're this, we're that. And it's fine. And I don't think it's fine anymore. Brands are saying, this isn't aligning with my values. This isn't addressing any of my priorities. So why would I continue to spend an outrageous amount of money for something that's not accomplishing my goals? So I think that that's really where brand building is so important, and trying to get everybody to remember that that's where it starts.
Yeah, I agree. And you said something that I thought was so interesting. We don't tap enough into the resources that we already have. We seem to think that we need like more budget here. We're struggling with the resources that we have. The resources are more and more limited. But then we fail to optimize the resources that are already there and available. And everyone, any kind of company, I've said it once to someone and they were like, yeah, well, you can say because you work for a big company. I'm like, no, every company has, however small it is, however in a startup mode it is, there are some resources that you can tap into. It's a different thing that you choose to see what is missing than what you have, and just optimize the little that you have. So I do think that it's a very good point. So one thing that I want to go back to a little bit as to, we've heard your stories and kind of to understand how you got here. We also heard, the how you're doing what you're doing. And that's what I call your magic. I'm really interested about your purpose and your mindset, how those things come together in doing what you're doing. Why is it that you set out to build the company that you're building, and what is the different set of values or the mindset that you're setting out to build it?
I think the main reason why we built our company, and I think it sounds selfish, but I think it's how a lot of startups do start, is we had to solve our own problem. So we had to be the ones who were going to come in and say, well, we don't want to work this way anymore. We don't want this perception of women in business anymore. And we want to have a culture and a community that recognizes the value that women bring to the table in the way they need to bring it, not in the package that somebody else has asked them to put it in. And if we want to see all that, then we need to do it for ourselves, and we need to create that for ourselves. And so I think that was step one. And step two is that Laura and I have a really big piece of ourselves that, and I don't know, maybe it's too rebellious or it's too outlaw. Laura does like to call us outlaws, creative outlaws, that we want to just break down the whole system. It's like, no, this is just so nonsensical. This doesn't make any sense. Like, none of this is needed. Like, we can do all of this in a different way that aligns with who women really are, how diverse communities contribute to business, and we can highlight it in a really important way. So we want to make sure that we're bringing all of that, and we're serving our larger community, and we're serving the women who work at P Partners. I was just training a new woman who started today, and I said, can you let me know, we have some late meetings. What does that look like for you and your family? And she was so blown away that she could tell me that daycare closes at 5:30 for her small ones and at 6 for her older ones. And I was like, great. So let's work around that. How do we figure that out? What does that mean? And she's like, oh, well, today my husband is covering that, but I just can't believe that I got to share that in the future. That's something I might have to deal with. So I think that that's where that different mindset of, it's okay, we can figure this out. Oh, you can reschedule meetings. It's really not a problem. Oh, you can change meeting time zones. Oh, she could work from 4:30 to 7:30 and take 3 hours off in the afternoon to do what she needs to do for her family and for herself. And everything will get done and accomplished. And it'll actually get done better and in a more efficient way because she's not burnt out. She's not stressed. She's not trying to retrofit. She's operating authentically to who she is. So she gets to do all of these things and perform in an even more elevated manner because she's supported. And I think that that's really that mindset shift of what we were looking to do and looking to manifest in the market.
I think our ultimate manifesto, right, is to break everything down. But really our manifesto is to deliver unmatched results in the industry that totally shake up the expectations of what's possible. And by doing so in the way that we'll do it with the team that we're doing it with, it will change the paradigm of the future. It'll make the future of business a more inclusive and dynamic and honestly more interesting place.
I love it so much. And basically what I've done, I've taken you through the first 4 points of my Unmatched thesis, which is going to be in my book. But that's basically it. I always say that the story informs who you are. Your purpose and your zone of genius, your magic, are kind of like pushing you into that direction of creating something that doesn't exist for a specific purpose and using all the skills that you have accumulated throughout the years, right? And then with that, comes the mindset. You can't build what you're trying to build based on your story that brought you to where you are to use all the magic with that purpose if you don't have the right mindset. And then the fifth point is the strategy. The strategy is the last point, to be honest, because all the other points need to be connected. And if those 4 points are connected, the strategy is going to work. And by the sounds of it, sounds like you have an amazing strategy that you are putting out into the world for your clients, based on your unmatched, like magic and purpose and mindset and everything that you guys are putting into the world. So, I'm pretty sure that it's going to be successful. And thank you so much for sharing that story with us today.
Thank you so much for having us, Oana. By the way, cut out a little bit towards the end there. So if we missed anything in particular, let us know. But
yes,
No, thank you so much for having us on and sharing your platform with us. It's so amazing to follow your journey and all of your passion projects. It's just, I mean, we talked about this earlier. I don't know how you have such a fire internally to keep going and keep doing more. And it's so amazing to see and get to cheer on from the sidelines.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you both and all the best. And I think what you're doing is such an amazing thing that will change so many lives, for the teams and the people that you're going to build around you and sort of like form this amazing team for Be Partners, but also for the clients, because this is a domino effect. This is a trickle down effect. What you create and what you put into the world is going, like the butterfly effect. It has an effect somewhere else into the world. So thank you so much for sharing all this. And yeah, thank you for being on Unmatched.
Thank you so much. And I'll leave it with this for our clients and for women. Stop asking for directions to places they've never been. And that's a mantra that we have. So if I can say that to our clients and to women in business and women everywhere, stop asking for directions to places they've never been. And thank you so much, Oana, for what you do for business and for women and everything that you put out into the world. It's so needed, and we appreciate the opportunity to be a part of it.